let's just break into programming, because this is the information and it is now still not official, but I believe that this is source-based information. There are changes that have taken place. Arun Jaitley retains finance and corporate affairs, so I think information and broadcasting has been done away with. Venkaiah Naidu, urban development, which is what he currently has, and also gets information and broadcasting. So Venkaiah Naidu will also get information and broadcasting. You have Nitin Gadkari, road transport and highways, shipping. Manohar Parrikar at defense. Suresh Prabhu, untouched at railways. Sadanand Gowda, the law minister, has been moved out of law. He now moves to statistics and program implementation. So let's just take you through the big stories at this point in time. Sadanand Gowda is no longer the law minister. He's statistics and program implementation. Uma Bharti retains water resources. Najma Heptullah retains minority affairs. Ram Vilas Paswan retains consumer affairs. Kalraj Mishra retains small and medium enterprises. I'm trying to look for some of the other changes that have perhaps been made at this point in time. Radha Mohan Singh retains social justice. This is the big one. Smriti Irani is no longer the HRD ministry. Smriti Irani has now been moved to the textile ministry. This is the breaking story at this point in time. Smriti Irani has been moved from the HRD ministry now to the textile ministry. So the HRD ministry loses both the Minister of State as well as the nodal minister, Smriti Irani moving out of textile. Prakash Javadekar will be the new HRD minister. So let's just get that going for you. Prakash Javadekar now becomes the new HRD minister. Ministers of State remain pretty much the same from what I can see. Vijay Goyal takes over as youth affairs and sports with independent charge. Dharmendra Pradhan retains petroleum and natural gas. Piyush Goyal, power, coal, and mines. So Piyush Goyal remains the same minister with independent charge. Nirmala Sitharaman retains commerce and industry. Mahesh Sharma gets culture. He was already tourism. I think civil aviation, where he was Minister of State for Civil Aviation, has been done away with. So Mahesh Sharma gets culture and tourism. And General V.K. Singh retains external affairs. So really the big story, and we're going to try and start getting reactions here. Perhaps we can get Aditi Phadnis back also with us. MJ Akbar, this is the big one. MJ Akbar has got external affairs. So the speculation was that perhaps since he'd spent his career as a journalist, he would have gotten INB. But MJ Akbar has got external affairs. Kiran Rijiju, home affairs. And we've got a new, I think we have a new minister, Jayant Sinha. Jayant Sinha gets civil aviation. So this is an interesting change. Remember, the Minister of State for Finance, Jayant Sinha, now getting civil aviation. Rajyavardhan Rathore, information and broadcasting. We'll just have to see if there's and there's been a change in finance. Arjun Ram Meghwal is now the Minister of State for Finance and Corporate Affairs. Does Jayant Sinha not retain the MOS finance portfolio and moves completely to civil aviation? This is going to be interesting to sort of decipher, but these are the big stories at this point in time. The law ministry, so as I pointed out, Gowda has moved to statistics and Ravi Shankar Prasad has moved to the law ministry, which also means it's important to see where or who has replaced Ravi Shankar Prasad as the minister for communication, and we just have to see what changes happened there. But I'm wondering if we have any reactions, any possible reactions that we can go to at this point in time. Okay, so at this point, let me very quickly recap, and our graphics should start to reflect that for you. That's the big one. Prakash Javadekar, cabinet rank, gets the HRD minister. Ravi Shankar Prasad gets the law ministry. Smriti Irani, for my producers, let me just point this out. Smriti Irani gets the textile ministry. So there's a change at the HRD. Both the Minister of State for HRD as well as the minister has changed. Smriti Irani now gets the textile portfolio. You're also seeing other changes. As I pointed out, we've got Jayant Sinha now moving to civil aviation. and of course, Ashok Gajapati Raju continues as the Minister for Civil Aviation. I'm trying to see who's replaced Ravi Shankar Prasad and where his portfolio has been given to who. Venkaiah Naidu has got additional charge of information and broadcasting. So civil aviation, these are not small changes. These are, this is a fairly significant reshuffle that's taken place, and perhaps that is why it took as long as it did. So once again, recapping, no change. Rajnath Singh maintaining Home Affairs, Sushma Swaraj External Affairs. Sushma Swaraj will now get MJ Akbar as her deputy as the Minister of State for External Affairs. R. Jagannathan, the editorial director at Swarajya magazine, joins us. Jaggi, appreciate you joining us here. We've been awaiting these announcements on portfolio changes, and let me just very quickly recap for you the announcements that have come in. And the big one really seems to be Smriti Irani out of HRD, moving now to textile. Prakash Javadekar moving to HRD. There are other changes, including MJ Akbar getting the Minister of State for External Affairs, Jayant Sinha moving out of finance to civil aviation. Your first thoughts on the changes that I've just spoken to you about?
Yes, what looked like some just general, perambulation of MOS level ministers earlier now looks like a real purposive change at this point, because I think one of the weak points in the last administration was HRD, where Smriti Irani did not exactly set the trail on fire. So I think her shifting is a major move, and the fact that Javadekar, who was seen to have done well at MOEF, is now shifting to HRD suggests that the PM now feels there will be somebody who will be very hands-on and make a lot of changes there. I think this is a most significant move. Another area is that in telecom, I think Ravi Shankar Prasad was not seen to have made much headway there. I think it now has a new incumbent one, I think Manoj Sinha or some name like that. I think that is a big move again. And in law ministry, I think the ongoing tussle with the judiciary over the memorandum of procedure and all, I think they want somebody more tried and tested like Ravi Shankar Prasad, who's handled the portfolio before. This thing, I think, is solid in the law side. So they have got him to do that. So I think most of these are moving towards people who will probably get more things done. So I think now the cabinet reshuffle is looking far more purposive than it looked in the morning, when we only had a whole bunch of junior ministers being added and some junior ministers being subtracted.
Jaggi, let's just continue our conversation on some of the other changes. MJ Akbar, the speculation was that given the fact that he's a career journalist, he would have gotten INB. But it's an interesting choice. He comes in as the deputy to Sushma Swaraj as the Minister of State for External Affairs.
That's right. I think it's a good move, because I think MJ Akbar has a profile and he has an understanding of geopolitics, world politics and all that. So in a sense, it emphasizes Prime Minister Modi's external profile, where I think you have a strong Prime Minister, you have External Affairs Minister who has done a lot of good work, but under the shadow of the Prime Minister. Now you have yet another MOS who will also have a high profile. So I think the whole external portfolio gets a very strong profile, starting with the PM and Sushma and this thing. I think that sends a very strong message on an external orientation for this government.
Aditi Phadnis of the Business Standard also joins us. Aditi, we were just talking about Mera Sapna Toot Gaya. I don't know who's going to be singing that song at the end of tonight, but we do have some significant changes that are being made. Smriti Irani comes into textile. Ravi Shankar Prasad moves to law. Sadanand Gowda loses law. We've got an interesting change, and a surprising one at that. Jayant Sinha being moved out of finance to civil aviation, coming in as Minister of State. Ashok Gajapati Raju stays on. What do you make of Jayant Sinha's move out of finance to civil aviation?
Well, I think I would interpret it as a promotion, because civil aviation ministry is where the action is these days. It's one of the most important ministries in the government right now. There's a massive plan to upgrade airports. There's a new civil aviation policy in place. There's a lot of investment possibilities. FDI rules have been relaxed for ground handling and everything. So I think I would interpret that as a promotion rather than a lateral movement or demotion.
Speaking of the person who replaces Jayant Sinha, Mr. Meghaval, Aditi Phadnis, a comment on Mr. Meghaval, who comes in as the Minister of State for Finance?
Arjun Ram Meghwal was an IAS officer, and he is a Dalit from Rajasthan. He is, I think, more or less coterminous to, the equivalent would be Namo Narayan Meena, who in the previous government had the almost exact same profile as Arjun Meghwal. So he is, he knows procedures and so on, but he is not expected to look at investment, etc. So
okay, and a quick word. I'll ask both Jaggi and you. Manoj Sinha comes in as the Communications Minister with independent charge, and he also, I think, gets Minister of State for Railways. Your quick take on Manoj Sinha getting Communications, Aditi?
Manoj Sinha, as you know, union background. He was the president of the Students' Union in BHU many, many years ago. And has an ABVP background and is considered quite a dynamic minister. He was given some amount of work by Suresh Prabhu in the Department of Railways, but I think he felt kind of underutilized. At any rate, in the present circumstances, he's got a promotion because he now has independent charge. So, and this is also with a view to UP elections. He belongs to Eastern UP and is quite an important person over there.
Right. Jaggi, some of the other changes, or at least, Mahesh Sharma has been left with culture and tourism, but civil aviation has been taken away from him. And also, interestingly, Venkaiah Naidu has gotten additional charge of INB. So it moves away from Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, who retains corporate affairs and, of course, the finance portfolio, but INB being taken over by Venkaiah Naidu.
Yes, I think Modi now wants, more straight bat as far as the media is concerned. Now that I think generally media has moved out of the pure confrontationist space after the recent changes where he's talked to some TV channels. There's a lot of interviews today going on everywhere and all that. So I think he doesn't feel that he needs that kind of insider look at the media and all that. I think he's put thing, and the fact that he has reduced Jaitley's portfolio is also significant, which means the message to Jaitley is that concentrate on finance, which is where you've got to dig us out of this hole that we are in. So I think that's where instead of distributing your attention to three different ministries. So finance and corporate affairs is what you need to focus on.
Aditi Phadnis, do you believe that, the changes that have been made, more or less, people are going to be satisfied? Would people like Sadanand Gowda, it was expected that he would perhaps be moved to now statistics and implementation, law, of course, going to Ravi Shankar Prasad. How do you see this going down with a lot of these ministers who've been shuffled around?
Well, I think the one who will be singing Mera Sundar Sapna Toot Gaya will be Sadanand Gowda today, because his profile in this government has not been exactly edifying. He was Minister for Railways, he was shifted to Law and Justice, and now he's been moved to Statistics, which is more or less a non-ministry. But he is important for Karnataka politics. He's a Gowda, and he's counterpoise to the rise of the Lingayats in Karnataka political equation. So, he's a decent man and well-spoken and a true gentleman, but I'm afraid politically it's a downward trajectory for him.
Jaggi, the Smriti Irani's move out of HRD. So the HRD ministry has actually lost both the minister as well as the Minister of State. And now you have a new team at the HRD ministry. It cannot be seen as any kind of a demotion for Smriti Irani, because textile is going to be a focus area of this government. In fact, they've just announced a 6,000 crore rupee package for the textile sector. And this is going to be something that the government intends to do much more with. But it seems to be that that perhaps the confrontational approach or the headlines that were being created by Smriti Irani at the HRD ministry, the Prime Minister seems to have taken cognizance of how they were reflecting on the government.
Yeah, I would think so, because I think Smriti Irani is a combative minister, and at this point, HRD needs a very, level-headed and long-term vision thing. And HRD is one of the most important ministries after you take away finance and, home or defense, because that's what the future of the country depends on, how well you manage your HRD, education, and things like that. So you can't have something that is constantly in the spotlight for the wrong reasons. So I think it's not so much a demotion for her, because there's a hell of a lot to do in textiles. But he wanted somebody who will just get his head down and just focus on what needs to be done, rather than get into side controversies that actually detract you from what you really need to do there.
I want to get both you and Aditi in on this, because I understand, and this is something that my producers are pointing out at this point, that there is actually no name assigned to the INB ministry, and the press release says that, and neither is there any independent charge allocated, and the release says that all portfolios not allocated to any minister go to the Prime Minister. So perhaps, perhaps it's not Venkaiah Naidu, perhaps it is Prime Minister Modi himself who takes charge of INB. Jaggi?
No, I don't know. Some of the channels are mentioning Venkaiah as the INB minister. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the PM handles it, because first of all, I think the portfolio doesn't make sense. Beyond this thing. I mean, most of it can easily be handled, except for handling Prasar Bharati and those kind of stuff, and some general information portfolio, which have already been decentralized with the ministries and all those things. So it doesn't really need a full-time minister. It can be handled by somebody in the PMO also. So I don't know if it's important, but of course, since if somebody has to be given charge, it could be given to somebody like Naidu. It's an additional charge. In any case, it has a Minister of State. You have Rathore there, who has not been shifted, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so it can even be handled by the MOS.
That's right. Rajyavardhan Rathore retains his position. Aditi, you wanted to make a quick point on that? Because I'm just looking at the release, and you're right, it's number 5 and it's been left blank. That's the INB ministry, and my producer pointing out that the release says whatever has not been allocated will perhaps rest with the Prime Minister.
Actually, the INB minister is extremely important, because the INB minister is the one who briefs on cabinet decisions. Now, in the past, during the UPA regime, if you recall, it was Mr. Chidambaram who used to brief, and whether he was Home Minister or Finance Minister, he used to brief cabinet. And there came a point where there was a virtual tussle for power between him and Ambika Soni when she was INB Minister. And finally, Ambika Soni wrested it from him when things came to a pass where he had to brief on his ministry. He would still come and brief. So INB ministry is actually has a very high profile, and the minister who handles that particular responsibility appears on TV almost at least once every week. So I don't think the Prime Minister can handle it directly. I think they will have to appoint somebody. Maybe they have not decided yet who it is going to be.
Yeah, I suspect, and because I look at 16, which is parliamentary affairs, it's been left blank as well. We are still awaiting details on some of those issues. But as we've been pointing out, the big changes really coming in. Textile Smriti Zubin Irani comes in there. Civil Aviation Minister of State is Jayant Sinha. Vijay Goel comes in as Youth Affairs and Sports Independent Charge. Also gets water resources, river development, and Ganga rejuvenation. Jaggi, a quick word on Vijay Goel.
I think it was important that he be given a thing, because he's been kept out for a long time, and he has been a key player in Delhi before Harshvardhan came in and before the last election as the party's face for chief ministership. But I think he lost out at the last minute when Modi plumped for him before the 2013 elections. But after that, I think even Harshvardhan has played a side role. I think they had to give him some profile at the center. Also, with an eye on 2019, you need somebody to be able to hold on to some seats in Delhi. So I think it is necessary. That's where he comes in.
Yeah, Aditi, a quick word now on what we can expect. It's what, but it's obviously been a significant negotiation that has happened at the Prime Minister's office with his key team, and which is probably why they waited as long as they have to announce the portfolios.
Quite right, and having waited that long, all the portfolios, which suggests that they don't want to put square pegs in round holes. I think Anil Dave in environment is going to be a very interesting choice. He's known to be some kind of an environmental activist. And I think MJ Akbar in foreign affairs is going to be a very good choice because he is sophisticated, he has a command over the language, and he's not prone to making, how shall I put this, uninformed and irresponsible statements like his other counterparts.
Let me also start getting in some political reactions. Mr. Mohammed Salim of the left joins us. Mr. Salim, appreciate you joining us here. Your quick reactions now. We do have clarity on the portfolio changes. Smriti Irani, as well as the Minister of State of HRD, both being moved out now. Smriti Irani takes over the Textile Ministry. Ravi Shankar Prasad comes in as the new Law Minister. Prakash Javadekar takes over as the HRD Minister. MJ Akbar comes in as the Minister of State for External Affairs. What do you make of the announcements that have finally come in from the government?
There are two aspects. First aspect, in response to what you put this question, you see that this is an acceptance of the failure of the Modi government in certain departments which the opposition, media, and the people at large were complaining. And about the non-performance or creating some problem. You see what happened in the HRD ministry and the unrest in the various universities and how these controversies are propped up, and the arrogant attitude of the minister itself, even inside parliament, outside parliament. So it's a recognition, I think. The same happened in the case of civil aviation. The same happened in the case of law ministry. And Mr. Sadananda Gowda was first the railway minister, then he was shunted out of railway ministry, now the law ministry, from the law ministry to again shunted out. So that itself means in some places the Prime Minister is compelled to retain certain ministers, but hardly finding that work satisfactory. On the other hand, it's good that INB ministry, because finance ministry is very huge and important, gigantic task, and the challenge in the economic front is huge, and the economy is also not doing well despite the claims. So it's good that Venkaiah Naidu is in the INB instead of, but we've seen in the last 2 years there are several changes of INB ministry. Javadekar was there, Ravi Shankar Prasad, and then now Arun Jaitley. So for the formulation of policy and implementation of it, you require some time. So it's a musical chair type of thing. On the other hand, you see the efficiency or experience was not considered, rather than the elections of Punjab, Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, and the caste composition. So RSS BJP used to say a lot about caste thing, but now you see that they are reconciling with the situation to how to tackle Patel situation, how to tackle Jat situation, now how to this UP election is there. But one thing is good that MJ Akbar, I think, because HRD, this Foreign External Affairs Ministry, the Prime Minister has to take so much of a load, going to the Arab states, talking there, visiting the mosque, and talking to Prophet Muhammad. So now at least MJ Akbar will be doing that part of thing. That is good. It's a job distribution. And I'm happy that Vijay Goyal and Ahluwalia made minister. But Ahluwalia ji is a farming agriculture. There is also an acceptance that the agriculture is not doing well and the ministry's intervention was not good. But I think Ahluwalia ji could have given some more important and some other thing rather than agriculture, because though he's from originally is a Sikh but not a Punjabi, he's a Bengali and not connected with the agriculture. So someone from the agriculture background of Kisan movement should have done justice. And Ahluwalia, with any development ministry, even business, trade, commerce, you could have done well. But it's a prerogative of the Prime Minister to allocate or the divest or to invest.
Yeah. It is the prerogative of the Prime Minister, and this reshuffle, of course, has been done by the Prime Minister, is what we're given to understand. Jaggi, what would be the key highlight as far as this expansion and now reshuffle exercise is concerned?
One thing is, I think he has started moving out what he thinks are the weak links that he could not fix earlier. I mean, so things like HRD, telecom, all those things have been reshuffled. I mean, I think that's the key message. Another thing is some of the things that need to do more, like he has strengthened civil aviation, which is not, which is part of the TDP power base, which is a civil thing. So he has put a strong person there. They're like Jayant Sinha there. So basically, the idea is that as you move forward, you need to have more competent guys there. So within the talent pool that is available within the BJP, he has tried to move the better ones there. So there is some strong message of performance and future expectations here. That's the big theme that's coming out of this thing, which is not a small thing. This is a big change, I think, for the first time. The only other change was when, I think a year or two ago, when you made changes in defense, railways and things. But this is, I think, in a sense, bigger.
Yes, let's go across to Tom Vadakkan of the Congress Party as well for a quick reaction. Mr. Vadakkan, we now have the portfolios that have been announced, and there are significant changes, starting with the HRD ministry, the textile ministry, the law ministry, the telecom ministry. So this is not just an expansion exercise, as the Prime Minister seemed to be alluding. This is a significant reshuffle exercise.
I don't read this as much more than window dressing. The NPAs are still there. You may move the HRD minister, but probably HRD ministry's loss is Uttar Pradesh's gain, is what probably Bharatiya Janata Party is going to say. What a greater role she's going to play and what mess she's going to create, I mean, that's their concern. But I think this is basically window dressing operation because everything runs from PMO. Whether Jayant Sinha moves in from finance ministry to aviation, I don't think that is making much of a difference in the aviation industry. But the whole enterprise that they called energy, experience and expertise, an economist being moved to, I mean, I don't know what this experience and exposure, what they are talking about. Because this is a mix and match, and I see this as essentially a window dressing, basically based on what would be a balanced caste equation and Uttar Pradesh focused.
You know, it's a valid point that you make, and let me take that across now to Jaggi. Jaggi, I think from a market's perspective, they're going to be watching what has happened to the finance ministry very, very closely. I mean, Jayant Sinha was the man behind the National Investment and Infrastructure Fund. He was the man behind Indradhanush. He was looking at the whole NPA issue. You move him now to civil aviation, and look who's replacing him as Minister of State for Finance. Santosh Kumar Gangwar moves from textile now to the finance ministry, and Mr. Meghaval comes in. So you've got two ministers of state for finance now coming in along with Arun Jaitley. How do you see the markets reading this, Jaggi?
Yeah, I mean, I do see that the shifting out of Jayant Sinha from finance will be seen as a slight weakening of the finance ministry. And the two new arrivals will take some time to find the feet there because the finance ministry faces many complex issues, and plus you also have to pilot the GST bill. You've got to get all those laws on the debt tribunal, this, that, one after the other done. So I think these two fellows will have to have a very fast learning curve, or else Jaitley will be on his own. I think he would have benefited from having Jayant Sinha be retained there. But I think Modi seems to have felt that this is, I think he will probably do a better job there, since that's now a big growth area for policy. Whereas finance ministry, it's more about keeping the house and running tight and fixing the banks' problem. That's my main thing. The rest of it, he would expect that will get done through the budgets, where Mr. Modi himself is taking a direct interest. The third budget, for example, had more of a Modi imprint than the first two. And so my guess is that there will be a greater prime ministerial impact directly on budgets. And as far as the other thing, we expect Mr. Jaitley to handle the core finance functions. But his two deputies, of course, will have to watch whether they're going to fit in well or not.
Yes, and I think that is going to be a key concern as far as the markets, go, because as I pointed out, Jayant Sinha was really instrumental in a lot of these, pushing a lot of these policies, specifically the Indradhanush policy, which had to do with the banking reforms. He was spearheading that. He was spearheading the forward movement as far as the NIIF is concerned. So this is something that I don't suppose the markets are going to appreciate. But Tom Vadakkan, you called it window dressing, but at the end of the day, what would, to your mind, be the key message that the Prime Minister is sending out through this reshuffle exercise?
This is essentially focused on Uttar Pradesh election. Basically, caste combinations is what is at stake here. We have seen the balance of caste equations being worked out. We have 3 ministers from UP. And essentially, reshuffle is, of course, a prerogative of the Prime Minister. But at the same time, the main focus is on the finance ministry. And what has he done? You have an RBI governor who just said he's not going to take a second term. You had the financial advisor being targeted. And now you have the textile person being moved to finance ministry. I don't know how the market is going to take it. There's something seriously wrong in the finance ministry. You had let loose Subramanian Swamy and the finance minister. And all that has happened is that, the only advantage, the positive point is that Subramanian Swamy doesn't seem to have joined in. But I'm seriously worried on the financial sector, how the markets are going to see it. And, this kind of, window dressing, for what, I don't know. What is the objective? They say energy and expertise and experience. I don't know. There's a mix and match in the whole exercise.
Jackie, just taking that point forward, that is thought being put into specialization or anything of the sort? Because, Smriti Irani, some were questioning her presence in the HRD ministry, and now you move her from HRD to the textile ministry. As I pointed out, the textile ministry is going to be a key focus area. They've just announced a 6,000 crore rupee package. You've now got a new textile policy that's expected. It's on the anvil. We understand that the Prime Minister's office is giving its finishing touches and finalizing that. But what do you make of, do some of these changes not look really strategic but more random?
See, as far as textiles is concerned, I think what needs to be done is fairly clear. And so whatever policy comes, textiles is very big in Gujarat, actually. And the Prime Minister is very aware of that particular industry. So my guess is he probably must have felt that, look, he would be able to guide Irani even if she goes a little off track. And there's no scope for any random statements being made on the textiles industry. Whereas in HRD, all kinds of political and, other agendas can come into the picture. So in that sense, I would say that she can be more focused in terms of what she delivers there. She is also from Gujarat, so she probably knows that industry. So that's not such a bad idea without a demotion. And I think the only thing that surprised me was the Jayant Sinha move, which I did not expect, and which probably you'll have to find a better replacement there.
Yes, I think that is something that seems to have surprised everyone, and we can argue about the fact that civil aviation is going to be a big focus sector and so on and so forth. But I think Jayant Sinha, his understanding of the markets, his understanding of the ministry, and the fact that he was really, in that sense, driving a lot of these key policies, this is going to be a cause for concern as far as the markets go. But that's the sum and substance of it at this point in time. Those are the big changes that are flashing on your screens. Civil aviation, that's Jayant Sinha comes in there as the Minister of State. Of course, Gajapati Raju continues to be the aviation minister. HRD, you've got to change there. Prakash Javadekar will move out from environment, and Smriti Irani will come in as the textile minister. And of course, in the key portfolios, which is defense, railways, Home Ministry, External Affairs and Finance, as we said, there have been no changes that have been announced. I think consensus that a good decision has been made on getting MJ Akbar as the Minister of State for External Affairs. A quick word, Tom Vadakkan, on that, MJ Akbar coming in as the Minister of State for External Affairs?
Well, I don't know. He is very well-versed as a journalist. We respect him. He knows to make headlines. He knows to say the right things. But last time when there was this negotiations in Russia, I remember him having said things which were very strange. He said it's breaking. He said it's a breaking story that we have broken our record of, and we have now come out with a great equation with Pakistan. And therein began the decline. From that day, I mean, as a spokesman, I've seen him. Yes, he's good, but as Minister of State, External Affairs, God bless the country. I hope everything goes well because he's outspoken and, well, that doesn't suit the diplomatic culture because this is one place where you talk less and act. And MJ Akbar is the grabber for headlines. He's done that all his life. As newspaper person, but I don't think it's a great news that he comes in external affairs and that he will bring in any qualitative difference in the decline that's happening in that ministry.
You know, Mr. Vadakkan, we were talking about how the markets are likely to react to this. So let's bring in Ajay Bagga, independent analyst. He joins us. Mr. Bagga, appreciate you joining us. First question, Jayant Sinha moving out of finance and the former textile minister, Mr. Gangwar, as well as Mr. Meghaval coming in as the ministers of state for finance along with Arun Jaitley. Will the market take kindly to Jayant Sinha's move out of the Ministry of Finance?
Well, Shirin, 2 points and totally poles apart. One, Minister of State is not that important. It's the cabinet minister who really calls the shots. Having said that, Jayant Sinha was playing a very important role. As you were saying earlier, be it Indradhanush, be it all the banking sector reforms and the expected GST. So Mr. Jaitley really needed all the firepower at his command. I don't know why this is done just 10 days before the monsoon session of Parliament and what impact it will have on GST. Markets don't like uncertainty. There will be some impact, definitely, and especially on the Jayant Sinha move.
What about the other portfolio changes, Ajay? Ravi Shankar Prasad now moves out of the telecom ministry, which was again vexed with this call drop issue. He moves now to law. And importantly, the sector that's been in the news and the stocks that have been in the news, the textile stocks in the textile sector now have Smriti Irani as the new textile minister. How will that go down?
It'll go down badly in the way that also you have the spectrum auction coming up. Very important for the government's finances that it goes through smoothly. Of course, you have the bureaucracy at the back which will ensure continuity. But again, one questions what was the need for the timing. Ravi Shankar Prasad was really doing a good job. And now Manoj Sinha has done a great job in railways. He comes with good credentials. But any change, any incumbent with such a big portfolio needs time, and Manoj Sinha continues railways and telecom both. So it's really, a little inexplicable. Textiles, Shirin, is the #3 biggest employer in the country. And if Make in India has to succeed, textiles have to succeed. So a lot of responsibility on Smriti Irani's shoulders coming in now. Again, that will lead to some amount of uncertainty.
Jaggi, would you say that Ravi Shankar Prasad, in that sense, has paid the price for the call drop controversy?
No, I mean, see, I don't think his tenure was marked by any great moves in the sense that, a lot of things are still left. I mean, the industry needs to consolidate. There are a lot of changes you need to do, and the spectrum auctions will probably get themselves done on their own because there is there is a telecom commission, and this whole thing will come through. It doesn't need a minister to shepherd a spectrum auction. So I think, but the point is, overall, I don't think he distinguishes himself too well. Not like the way, say, an Arun Shourie did in NDA 1. So I think a new broom will probably sweep as well. So, and it gives a chance for Modi to tell him what he expects from the ministry, and a young guy, energetic guy, might actually get done what Ravi Shankar Prasad probably could have done and didn't do.
Ajay Bagga, through the morning, it seemed like pretty much a non-event as far as the markets were concerned. But at the end of this evening, now that we have the portfolio allocation in due, and of course tomorrow is a market holiday on account of Eid, but do you see the markets at all reacting to this come the 7th?
See, again, Shirin, it is more presidential form, this government, with a lot of the power being concentrated in the PMO. And again, the main portfolios, the cabinet level portfolios, apart from textiles or HRD, have stayed pretty much the same, and law, of course. So I don't see much of... Yes. Yes, Urbi.
Ajay, let me just throw in one more ministry before you complete that take. I just want to talk about the new environment minister with Mr. Javadekar getting elevated. We have a new environment minister, Mr. Dave, and we just heard one of the experts there, Aditi Phadnis, saying that he has been seen as more of an activist in the past. We know that very important case, the diesel ban case, has been reserved by the Supreme Court for final judgment. So just your sense on how the entire auto lobby will view this.
Well, once it's in the Supreme Court, I don't know how much, apart from filing affidavits, the minister will not have much...
But there is that cess. No, yeah. Ajay, but there is the talk of the environment cess, because the government has put its contention that saying that the judiciary has no business to intervene when it comes to the imposition of that environment cess, what its quantum might be, and how it needs to be institutionalized. So we do have a new minister who will perhaps have to look at these issues.
Yeah, and it will take time. My only thing, what I was saying earlier should be that everything, Jaggi said bureaucracy runs it, you don't need a minister. Yes, then the PMO can run everything. But there are functions which a minister does. There is leadership. So there are so many people but no leadership. That becomes the issue when they have to restart the process. So, it's been done in a very sudden manner. Markets don't like that uncertainty. But markets are used to this presidential form to some extent, and the PMO calling the shots. So I don't expect that much of an impact. But yes, especially finance, there would be an impact. There would be some amount of uncertainty. Whether that comes from the European and US markets today looking weak, if that follows through, or is it this domestic, will be difficult to say. But yes, a little impact would be there.
A little impact will be there as the markets digest the changes that have been made by the government. We are going to try and see if we can get some corporate reactions going as well on the changes that have been announced now. We've been waiting through the morning. Remember, the new ministers, 19 of them were sworn in at about 11 o'clock, and the government has just announced the portfolios about 30 minutes ago. So we are still trying to grapple with the implications of the changes that have been made. There are certainly some surprising moves, and I think Jayant Sinha's exit out of the Ministry of Finance is perhaps one of the big ones from a market point of view, and that's going to be something that investors are going to be watching out for closely. And as Surbhi was pointing out, there are several, and Ajay was pointing out, spectrum auctions for the new telecom minister. Then you have, of course, the environment cess issue that the new environment minister is going to have to deal with. So the new ministers do have their work cut out for them. Jaggi, any final thoughts before we let you go?
No, I think overall, I think most of the changes are for the better. So I think this is a major move, and it's roughly midway in the government's tenure. This is probably the last of the major changes. After this, since the rest of the 3 years has to be about execution, implementation. So I think this is the final team that has to face the 2019 election, though there may be minor changes here and there every year. Or every other year. But so I think broadly it's good. What is the unusual thing was the shift of Jayant Sinha, which was unexpected, and probably it'll take some time for his replacements to get up to speed on what he's done. And also, I think telecom is an unknown quantity, but we probably are substituting somebody senior with somebody with more energy. So I think in a matter of months, if he's up to speed on what needs to be done about various things, I think it may not be a bad move. So overall, I would say, and Javadekar, one is expecting great things because I think he is considered to have done well in MOEF. And if in HRD he puts his head down and gets a lot of changes and things going, including opening up, higher education, getting more things done, I think it'll be a good move. And I think he will probably be pushed directly by the PMO to get things done in HRD, having lost precious time in the last 2 years.
Okay, let me go across to Narendra Taneja, spokesperson of the BJP, who also joined us earlier this morning. Narendra Taneja, this is not an expansion exercise, this is a reshuffle. My first question to you, because this is something that investors and the markets will want clarity on. Jayant Sinha, a man who was spearheading a lot of very crucial and important matters in the finance ministry, being moved out of the ministry to civil aviation. The former textile minister and Mr. Meghaval, a new inductee, coming into the Ministry of Finance. How do you explain this change?
Well, if you see MOS, Jayant Sinha got a great experience working under Mr. Jetley and his, we all know about his great and very rich contribution. But at the same time, Civil Aviation Ministry, as you know, is headed by an NDA minister, full-fledged minister, and the major changes going on. And actually, the whole idea is to mainstream civil aviation in such a way that even the poor people and people in far-flung rural areas can also be, incorporated in the whole exercise. So there, BJP basically has brought Mr. Jayant Sinha because finance there is going to be a big issue. Building new airports infrastructure is going to be a big issue. And with the experience that he has got now in the Ministry of Finance, that will be used now in the Ministry of Civil Aviation. This actually is, in a way, a lot of people are saying is a kind of elevation for him, but you will say that he will be actually bringing a lot of expertise and playing a much bigger role than some people might actually be expecting.
Some of the other changes that have been announced, Ravi Shankar Prasad taking over law, giving up the telecom ministry, and Smriti Irani moving from HRD to textile. So HRD has lost both Smriti Irani as well as the Minister of State for HRD, Prakash Javadekar, now coming in to replace Smriti Irani. What's the message that's being sent out there?
Well, first of all, this is, no demotion or promotion, no such thing, because she remains a cabinet minister, and textile for India is a very important ministry, creates a lot of jobs, and particularly very, important ministry for certain states. So I think, they should not be really seen that way. She plays a very important role, will continue to play a very important role, both in the cabinet and also in Uttar Pradesh. Probably she may have a little bit more time now for Uttar Pradesh after Uttar Pradesh is preparing for the election. So let's kind of not get into this thing. This is a demotion or any such thing. Is basically
no, I'm not. I didn't ask you if it was. I didn't ask you if it was a demotion or promotion at all, Mr. Taneja. I was asking for the rationale because textile, as we pointed out, is clearly been identified as a focus area of this government. Specifically from an employment generation perspective. We've just seen a 6,000 crore rupee package being announced. We were waiting for a new national textile policy to be announced. So I'm trying to understand why the move in textile at this point in time then.
Well, basically because textile ministry needs more energy, needs more enthusiasm, and needs someone who actually can, drive from the front. So that's the whole idea. And Smriti Irani has got everything that's needed, basically, to take it to a completely different league. Just wait for a couple of months and you will agree with me if you don't agree with me today.
Okay. Mr. Taneja, also, before we let you go, I want to ask you about the message that is being sent out with the reshuffle. So there's no change in the top deck, but if you can clarify for us the change in the INB portfolio, has the INB portfolio gone to Venkaiah Naidu, or is the INB portfolio still vacant?
You see, right now, Venkaiah Naidu ji is going to take care of this thing, and maybe in time to come, because these are all Prime Minister prerogative, I must say that. But you see, Finance Minister had been conveying to the Prime Minister that he would like to focus more on finance, and he basically said he doesn't get sufficient time from Ministry of Information Broadcasting. So I think, and Venkaiah Naidu ji is going to take care of this, but maybe in time to come, it is required, or maybe if he so wishes, you might see some changes there, but it's too early to say about that.
All right, Mr. Taneja, we will leave it there. Appreciate you joining us, Mr. Vadakkan. Jaggi, thanks very much for your time here, for decoding what these changes mean. As we pointed out, those are the changes that have been announced, a reshuffle and an expansion. The government has now announced the portfolios and some of those key changes flashing on your screens. We'll take a quick break. We haven't taken one in a while, and come back with more.